And welcome back, everybody, to the NARPM Radio podcast. And as promised, I have my good buddy, Paul Kankowski here. So, Paul, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be on the show. So happy to spend some time with you.
So, Paul, you and I have something in common where we're kind of a weird bunch. We love systems and processes and details and all of that stuff. And most people that start property management firms are kind of like the visionaries or from the sales side, where you and I came from a different side of things. Like we're just process oriented people. Tell me, why is it important for property management firms, especially, to have systems and processes in their, in their business?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying my processes 8 years ago, they were awful. They were god awful. They were bad. And I actually went and got help to start working my processes because I didn't like having a job. I wanted to own a company. And when you have no processes, you just have a job. You work all these hours of the day. You work so many hours, but you don't know what you did, but no one can replicate it. And that's why it's so important. Do you want to own a job, or do you want to own a company? And if you're fine doing that, then that's fine. But I went through a study with Daniel and Jordan and all that way back in the day when they were doing companies. And I was paying myself, I think, like $28,000 a year, something like that. So my company was profitable. And they went through it and they're like, your company's not profitable. They're like, you might as well just, well, I said this, they didn't say this, they're too nice to say this. But in my head, I said, I should just get a job at McDonald's, because right now I could make more money working at McDonald's than I am by having this company. And yes, I was growing it, building it, putting money back into it. But by creating processes, I was able to make a profitable company that was more efficient, because there's things that are better done by other people than me.
So, by having a process, basically, it gave you freedom. Is what
Yes.
I'm hearing, right? Now, when you have a process, it gives you freedom, but it allowed you to be profitable. And is that because by having a process, you can hire um, lower wage or virtual assistants to kind of run that process, or you need less people because the process might have some automation in it? So how did it change from becoming a job to becoming a company and being an owner and being profitable? How did that help?
So I was very much into remote assistance, getting remote workers. But even if you're going to be hiring people in the US, you need a process, because unless you find a unicorn, most people can't replicate what you're doing or do something better than you. So it allows you to have less expensive labor that can get things done better than you, because they're more like, I'm a visionary, Pete. Like me and you, we hang out, we can like get caught up in doing different things. And it's really, really important to me to have people that can sit at a desk and just get something done throughout the day to get it done, because then I can focus on my visionary roles. I can focus on being a BDM. I mean, that wasn't something that I outsourced for a while, and then I finally got a BDM. But I could focus on being at more appointments, getting more deals, getting more things. And when I got more efficient, I also felt better about raising my rates, about charging more, because I knew I was giving a higher level of service. So everything is just better by getting processes down.
I know one of the things that really helped Empire when I owned Empire, when we created these processes, a few things happened. Number one was we started giving the same customer, consistent client experience, both on the resident side and on the owner side, because now the team is following a process, so they're not, they're not kind of thinking on the fly, right? There's less there's less what do you call that when like you just kind of
Winging it,
improvisation.
winging
There's
it.
less improvisation, right? And so that provide a consistent customer experience, which to me, to Empire, it actually reduced churn, right? So because you're getting the customer experience the same, you reduce churn. It keeps you out of federal fair housing too, right? It keeps you out of fair housing issues if you have the same process going over and over. It's easier to train people because now you have a process. And also with us, we found that we made more money because with the process, it's like, oh, here you have to charge for this, then you have to do this. And what we had found is when we were quote unquote winging it, a lot of that stuff would get missed. And we would miss a lease payment or a lease charge or a lease renewal charge or some type of charge because it wasn't documented in the process.
You missed it, or you allowed it, the charges to go away. An owner would complain, you'd be like, oh, we'll just write that off. When you had a process in place, it wasn't them talking to you, it was them talking to your employees, and they couldn't write off the charges. As owners, we are sometimes a lot worse at dealing with clients than our employees, because our employees are set. This is your job. This is what you have to do. And when they call, they're like, yeah, well, I'm sorry. That's, above my pay grade. I can't, get rid of your renewal fee. And then when it comes to me, I have to back my employee, which means I have to have a consistent way that I talk to every owner. But before, the owners were like my friends, knew most of my owners because I was beginning, and they'd have my cell phone number, which ended once I got processes, and they'd call me up and be like, hey, Paul, this has been a bad year. Can you just, waive that lease renewal fee this year? And be like, oh yeah, sure. It was this, it wasn't as organized. And at the end, I'm like, look, I don't want to work at McDonald's. If you want me to manage your properties, then I need to make money. I'm sorry, but there's a thing where a lot of times property managers, we don't value our time as much. When we're growing our business, we're just like getting out there, and we don't realize we're working 80-hour weeks, and we need to be getting paid that. You wouldn't go tell, your doctor, oh, by the way, can you just cut my charge in half? And, he might say, well, what part of the surgery don't you want done? I mean, it's like, and so, I'm like, my doctor's making money, my lawyer's making money. I'm a professional. I need to be making money also.
Yeah, I would say that also with the processes, before we had good, clear, concise processes, we had a lot of chaos. And the way we solved the chaos originally was we hired a lot of people, a lot of bodies, thinking that would solve the challenge. And what it actually did is actually created more chaos, because now there's more people involved. There's more cross communication, right? It's exponentially more difficult because you have more people with different lines of communication. When we really dialed in our processes, I was able to increase the number of units per person operationally on our team, which also meant more money in our pocket, right? Because we can have more revenue with less expense.
Well, and you owning BPM Solutions, you've probably seen this problem. People will call you and be like, those people in Mexico, they're just not smart enough. They can't get it. They don't figure it out. I need to hire an American so that we can get this job done right. And they hire American, and they call you back and you're like, Americans are idiots. None of them know what's going on. Everyone's
no one wants to work. I can't find any good people.
Yeah, if I could just find that unicorn. I'm like, okay, well, how do you tell them what to do? Well, I texted them what they needed to do. And I'm like, you texted them? Like, I had someone actually tell me they texted their people in Mexico what to do for the day. And they were mad because the person didn't get the thing done right. I'm like, I have videos. I have things they can follow. I have things that are step by step. I have ways they can watch. And then I'll get the people that say, I don't want to hire anyone until I get my process in place. That's wrong too. So it's a combination to hire the people and have them help you create the processes. Hire the people, because if you hire the people and they get a little bit done, all that extra time you have, start spending on your process. Because it's kind of a, if you don't hire anyone, you're running with your head cut off trying to manage your doors. You can't put things on paper. You can't do that. So you kind of have to go both directions. But when you first hire people, every time things are going wrong, understand to point the finger at yourself. It's because your processes suck. And as they get better, then your employees will get better, and they're going to grow with you.
So that's a good segue. So, all right. So let's say somebody's listening to this, like, yeah, man, they're talking to me. Like, that's me. I am now, after listening to Pete and Paul, I understand I need processes. So in your opinion, what's the next step? Like, okay, so I think I need processes, but where do I begin? Do I do all of them at once? Do I start with one? Do I hire somebody? Like, what's the process to document your process or create processes in your company?
Well, I have people all the time come up to me and say, I got a couple weeks off. I'm going to get all my processes created. And I kind of chuckle at that. Like, really, seriously, I've been working on it for 7 years and mine aren't all done. I don't think processes are ever like done. Like, oh my gosh, we completed them all. The company's going to run perfect and nothing's going to change. Regulations are going to change. Things are going to change. Life's going to change. So what I tell people is, let's look at what is one of the most important processes for your company. A lot of times it's the application process. If your application process is different for every person, then you're going to get in trouble with the law. So let's get the application process right. So I would tell someone, let's document what your application process is. And then let's get it on paper. I don't care if it's paper and pen. I don't care if you use Process Street.
And you're documenting what's happening currently, right?
Yes, you're documenting what you currently do. And you need to look at, then you need to go to everyone who's part of that application process within your company. If you're a one-person company, it's pretty easy. You just point your fingers back at you. But if there's 3 of you and 2 of you are involved in the application process, then get those people in the same room as you. If they're in Mexico, get them in the same Zoom as you. And let's go through the process and let's have them figure out ways to make it better and what's going to happen. And then you start to write it. Now you could get that thing written in 2 days. You get that process for application written in 2 days. Great. You have the start. In 2 days, you wrote the process down. You have it on writing. It's going to take
you find, I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you find that when you were creating the processes with clients and with yourself that you're like, oh crap, there's some things here that we don't do that I thought were being done that should have been done, or people are stepping on each other saying, oh, well, I do this. Well, I do it this way, right? That you find out
every time
a lot of stuff.
Every time. So then that's why I said, then once you get it written, it takes 3 months of putting it in place. And every week you meet with those people that are doing it and you say, hey, what's going wrong with this? And then you make some changes. And what's going wrong with this? And after like 6 weeks, you're like, okay, I think we have a process that's pretty good. Now let's wait for 3 weeks and see what goes wrong with it. But then it takes about 3 months for you to say, this process is done. And then guess what? That process is done. And a year from now, you're going to revisit it. You're going to spend one day revisiting it, making changes a year later of what you've done a year later. So it's done, but it's not done forever. So I used to have a thing where we would all meet together. We'd break up the processes, and I'd put $100 bills on the glass, like was in a room. And I said, whoever makes the best change that makes the most efficiencies for our company gets this money, like that we vote on. And so every year we would look at, like, we just spend 2 days and we'd go through 8 processes because we already had them created, but we wanted to now
make them maintenance mode. You're just looking for more efficiencies.
More efficiencies, more money. Like, oh, this is something that we're not charging because we always miss this. Okay, well, let's do that. That if you find an area that, oh my gosh, we're losing $25 a door because we're not charging this, that's going to win you the $100 because that's a lot of money coming back in my pocket.
Yeah. I also found that, there's lots of things that break your processes, right? You talked a little bit about like growth. Growth used to, the process I created for 200 units broke at 400, broke at 800, broke at 1,000. And so for Empire, it was like, all right, we're the system's broke. Okay, let's go figure out. Right. So that's one way your process breaks. So if you're listening to this and you're at 100 units, I think you still create a process, but don't try to create a process for 1,000 units. Create the one for maybe 150 or 200 units. Do you agree with that mindset?
100% agree with it. One of the areas, I'll just give an example, is we had all of our leases end at the end of the month. That was great at 100 doors, at 200 doors. Now my branch, then my area is at over 1,000 doors. They don't have that process anymore. That is not part of the process because they wouldn't want 1,000 doors to end on the same day. And I understand people in college towns might have all their doors ending within a 3-day period, but that's just craziness. But you have to do what's good for your company. But now all of a sudden we have them on the 15th, the 20th. We switched it because there's so many doors.
Yeah, staggered.
With 200 doors, it was very cool because you knew the end of the month, you had everyone moving in and out. The middle of the month, you weren't worrying about moving in, move out. You knew by the 21st, you had to have all the things back, the security deposits back. So it was a very set process, which was good for small amount of doors. Wasn't good for big doors.
Yeah. what's your take on, like, so another thing that can break the process or change it is bringing in automation or bringing in some software. So talk about, like, because automation is a big, buzzword right now, and Lead Simple is kind of on the forefront of that. Um, so tell me, do I automate or do I build the process first? Like, what? Tell me tell
Okay.
me what the line order is.
And I do love Lead Simple, and they will give you this exact same answer. No, no, no on automation. Do not automate anything. If you automate crap, you're going to get crap.
Mm.
Automate once you get something that's beautiful, because you wanna, and then even when I automate, you got to watch it for the first couple of months. If you are sending automated emails, you don't want that dear owner. You want the dear, Pete. You got to make sure those emails are automating right. So you have to check with automation. Automation is amazing. It's wonderful. But if you're starting your processes and you said, I want to start my process and I automate 3 months, I would tell you, don't even think about automation for a year. And yeah, you can use Lead Simple, because Lead Simple can do everything unautomated. Lead Simple can do everything where you have to physically push the button and do it. But then once that process goes for 3 to 6 months even, and you know it's good, then you can click on the button and say, okay, now send these emails automatically. But before that, I would rather everything that I'm looking at, because getting zapped with Zapier, getting all those things, getting it so that it's working back and forth, it's great. But you got to start in the right lane. You can't, I mean, it would be like having automatic driver in a car, but you don't teach someone how to drive yet. Like, you're 14 years old. Let's just put you in and, let's just have you be the automatic driver. But they don't know how to drive yet. Learn how to drive, learn all the problems, then automate.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people have this grandiose idea, and it's so grandiose that you never, like, you end up having analysis paralysis. You never get off the ground because you have, like, this idea of what you want it to be, and you never take step one, which is document your existing process. Then the next step, if I heard you correctly, is make adjustments, burn it in, or make more adjustments over time, get it down, and then automate. Does that sound about right?
That is correct. Automation is not an early step. Automation is advanced writing. I mean, that's an advanced way. And like I
Agreed. I
said,
love I love your garbage in, garbage out, right? I love
yeah.
that idea. If you're putting crap in, you're going to get crap out. You're just going to get it out at a much quicker pace than you did
And
if you weren't
yeah,
automating.
and it's going to be a lot worse. I mean, it's going to be, you'll probably have a lot of bleeding when you start sending emails to owners that you didn't want to be sent.
Yep. So you had talked about the application process. Is that the recommended process to start with, or do you have a different, like, is there different strokes for different folks, so to speak?
The application process was actually my last one of my last ones that I did. So for my company, every company is different. My company, my wife was in charge of two things, and that was it: applications and renewals. And no one messed with it. She did it. She had a little Excel spreadsheet, did it her way. The second that I wanted to change that process, the deal was that I had to fire her. Basically, she was like, I'm not working at all. I'm not doing it your way.
Hmm.
And I'm like, great, I'm having my people do it. So for me, in the beginning, for my company, when I hired people, I was glad she was taking care of it. And it wasn't an area that we're bleeding, because she was very proficient at it. She was very good at doing what she did. And we were bleeding on move-ins, move-outs, those things that she wasn't involved in and that I wanted to get better. So that was important for me to start. Applications probably important for a lot of people, but if you have something like, I have people that say, oh, their finance is done by this person, and it's great, or that's an area that they're really struggling and that they're seeing that they could be in trouble. Look at where you're struggling and get those processes done.
I agree, because a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to start at the beginning, right? Whether it's onboarding or application, depending on which, the beginning is on the customer, on the resident journey or the owner journey. For me, I took your same approach. I was bleeding, hemorrhaging on maintenance, and so that was the one that we did first, and that's a hard one. I could tell you, it's difficult, but I'm with you on that. Start with the bleeding. All right, so the next step now is all right. So I identify the process, you document the process, you burn it in, you automate. What does the company look like? Is that it? Is there another step, or am I missing anything at that point?
Uh,
No.
once, no, then you're making a lot of money. I mean, then you're focusing, when you get your processes done, you can focus on the business instead of working in the business. Before I sold my company, I didn't do anything day to day at all. Like there was no day to day work that I did within the company. Everything I did was, oh, how can we adjust this so we can be more profitable? I could take my time and focus on what are we making? Like these are the questions that you should ask, not how many doors you have. How much do you make per door? What is your revenue percentage of what you bring in? Those are things that like we're so busy working, we don't have time to like analyze our books, analyze our income, analyze things like that. When you get process going and everyone's working on that, you can start analyzing the fundamentals of your business and starting to tweak things that, oh, we're making 28%. Okay, I'm going to tweak this. Now all of a sudden we're making 35%. And you really get to see. And I know that that was for you with your company too. Like towards the end, before you sold, you were really starting, that was your focus point. In the beginning, it was growth and what are we doing and getting the processes. So it's a great change when you as an owner can focus more on the economics.
I will say, as owners of property management firms, a lot of us have come from the real estate or investor side, and we take a lot. It's almost like a badge of honor that, hey, how many hours a week do you work? Oh man, I work 80 hours a week, right? And we're such doers. And I got to say that I have never met a group of more hardworking, passionate people than when I go to a property management conference. It's amazing what you all do. And what I have seen, and I had trouble with this myself, is once I freed up my time, you almost have to learn a new skill. Like that skill that you're talking about is like looking at the percentages and looking at financial reporting. Many of us don't have that skill. Like you almost have to teach yourself how to become a CEO because you've been a doer for years building the company. And now you have to become a CEO. And I'll throw a shout out to Profit Coach is probably as good as company as any to kind of help you at least look at the numbers. Did you have any troubles like getting from doer to CEO in your journey, Paul?
Well, I was a math teacher and I was a principal before that for school. So I'd been used to looking at books. I just didn't have time. Like I was just doing so much that wasn't something that was focused. I love numbers. I love looking at numbers. And I agree with you. If you don't look at someone like Daniel is that guy, I'm like, when I have a conversation with him, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like two nerds. We love it. I love talking to that guy. It's like, you know,
When I
like
talk to him, I
talking
feel like
math
I
and
feel
I
like I have an
start
IQ of about 4. I'm like, oh
like,
man, he's so smart.
he is very smart and it's very fun having conversations with him. But yeah, no, I mean, get the help you need. But no, for me personally, it was the part when I really started loving property management, when I was able to look at the investment side. And I know for you too, Pete, I mean, we had those conversations when you started to really get to move out of the systems and start working on how your operations were and how you could streamline operations to make more money and meet more efficiency. I know that's when you really loved being at
Empire.
Empire.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy the efficiencies. I believe this business, this industry has so many inefficiencies and the software is getting there. But like you said earlier, it really starts with that blueprint. And the blueprint is knowing exactly what's happening in each one of your processes, documenting it, and then adding the automation. And it really like, you know, it used to be where you needed X amount of people for X amount of doors. And that door count per person will only increase if you have systems, and then it increases again when you have automation. Agree?
Yeah. And the other thing, this is a really important thing, is as business owners, I remember early on business, it was like, I can't take a vacation during the summer because summer's too busy. I got to the point where it was like, bye staff, it's July and my kids are in high school and we're going for 3 weeks away to Europe or wherever we're going, because I was able to just a couple hours a day go on my computer while I was on vacation. I'll be honest, I didn't completely like disappear.
Yeah,
I
like
would
Peter
still,
Lohman, right? Peter Lohman was he disappeared for 40 days or something like that. You still had to jump in and check things
I,
out.
I'm just anal about that. Like it was more that like I was checking it out, like, oh, this is going on, and I would check things out, make sure it was going okay. But it was so nice because like my number one, he was working his tail end off because he was had to get everything done, and I was having fun. And so if you're in a business, like I always hear that I can't leave because I'm too busy in the month of July. I can't go with my kids somewhere. I can't do this. Then you own a job. Like you need to get to the point where you own a business where it doesn't matter if it's a big busy season. You can go away because you are not in the trenches. They don't need you. They actually probably will perform better with you gone because they're going to have to follow the systems, they're going to have to follow the process, and they're going to have to grow up. So it's a good thing when you get to that stage.
Now, Paul, what do you tell somebody who, let's say they're super visionary, not super detailed, they own the business, they want to do the processes, but they just don't have the capacity, right? They're just not. I can't. My old business partner Steve, if we sat him in a room and gave him a flow chart of stuff, and we had to sit there for 8 hours going over the details, I think he would just like his head would explode. He just didn't have the capacity. So if somebody doesn't have the capacity, what are some of the ways they can skin this cat?
There's a lot of people out there that will do it for you, and help get it done for you, and they'll interview your staff. I know I've done that before where I go in, I interview the staff, I find out what they want with the thing, and you're a visionary. You can still spew out information to that person that can do it. And then you have someone who can sit there and get it done for you. One of the things that happens a lot of times is the guy was David Flores. David Flores was because I'm also like all over the place, starting new companies, doing things like that. And so I would tell David, this is what we want to do. And I'd work on it, and I would be like, probably like Steve, like I'd work really quickly. And then I'd be like, David, get this so it works in the computer, get this so it works technology wise. Because my thing was, I didn't like technology that much. Like I do technology, but I don't want to get into the nitty gritties of technology. I don't want to deal with that. You get this app to work, you get this to work. I found that, and David was in Mexico, and he was my first employee that I had, from Mexico, and he stayed with me my entire time I had my company. And I ended up, when I started a remote hiring business back in the day, I made him CEO. He ran that. He ran all the systems, all the processes, everything. But I taught him like what he needed to do. And then I would give him time to take classes on certain types of things that I needed to learn. Like he didn't know Zapier. Well, he learned it. I paid for classes. I paid for stuff for him. So you can get someone, you can bring them in to supplement you. But I think as a business owner, you have to have a pulse, you have to have a tab on it, but you don't have to do what you suck at. You can pay people to do what you suck at. You have things that you excel at, spend your time doing what you excel at and spend the money on what you do. I know what my weaknesses are. Marketing, I'm horrible at. Like I'm not a marketer. That's just not where I'm good at. So I would pay people to do the things I didn't like or wasn't good at.
So we're recording this the end of October. It's going to come out in December, and I know how passionate you are about systems and really, helping people find financial freedom through systems in their property management business. Talk to me a little bit about, you have the PM systems workflow. If I said that correctly, did I say that correctly? It's PM
Team
systems.
systems, workshop, conference, anything you
Yep.
want.
Yep. And so you started out a few years back, and it's gaining a lot of traction. It's a very unique conference. Tell me how you decide, like, how you decided on that, and what people could expect if they decided, hey, I'm really interested. I want to go to this conference. What can they expect from this conference?
So this is the 8th time we've had this conference. So it's been a while, and I will actually, you were one of the ones who got me to start this. You don't know that, but you did. 8 years
I
ago,
did not know that. Yeah.
yeah, 8 years ago, I'm cheap, and my system sucked, and so I went and hired one of your buddies, and from Houston, Errol Allen, And I hired him, and he was like $3,000 or $4,000 a day. I think he was like $4,000 a day. And so I put on Facebook or whatever we had back then. Anyone want to split the cost and show up in Vegas? So you were the one who recommended, because Errol had been working in your company.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I had like 12 or 14 people say, oh, I want to come. I want to come. So then, Errol just worked on us, and we just worked on our systems. It wasn't like he did a little bit of talking, but most of it was us working and him coming around and checking. And then I was leaving, and it wasn't a workshop, it wasn't anything. It was just me trying to, save money. And Jordan called me up and said, oh my gosh, you're the talk of Facebook about this amazing conference you did. I'm like, it wasn't a conference. I just was being cheap. And so that's how it got started. And the same people, I have those same 12, most of them have been almost all 8 times already. So it's like, not like, oh, they finished their conference. One of them's a speaker, Matthew Kammeyer. He's a speaker this year. He's been to every single one, and he has amazing systems, but he will still go back because he wants to keep creating his systems be better. So it's not like, you get to this point where you're like, oh, my systems are done. So this conference is not a conference, it's a workshop. We have tons of things where there's teaching things where we're talking. We have 12 different speakers and they'll be talking, but then we also have things where it's coaching. In a coaching session, you're going to go there, you're going to have your computer out, and you're going to start working on it. We're going to have a technology person in every coaching room, and we're going to have a property manager that's been through this before, and they're going to walk around and ask you questions. You'd be like, hey, what do you think about this on my renewal process? And they're told to be blunt. They're going to say like, well, yeah, I think that's not that good for this and the reason, or that's great, but you might want to add this. So you have all that feedback. And a lot of people will bring like 3 or 4 people from their team so that they work on it together. And then every night, as you remember, you had one of the best bowling little cheers that we have. Every night we do something really fun. So we have like a dice tournament one night. We have a
Shout
dinner
out to the process kings out there.
Yeah, and then we have a bowling bingo night, which you had a cheer and everything because it got you extra points. And it's small groups. It's not in a big conference room. We have about 9 suites that are about 3,000 square foot each. There's 20 to 25 people per room. You're working with people. It's easy to ask questions because me and Wolfgang, who's now my co-founder, we both come from education. And what I learned is people don't learn that much by just listening. Really don't. Like, it's a very small percentage what you learn. What do you learn from? By doing. So if I'm going to give you my tenant university, I'm going to tell you about my tenant university, but then I have an hour-and-a-half block scheduled afterwards for you to get it done. So when you leave my conference, you're not like, oh my gosh, I have these 5 ideas I want to finish. You're like, oh my gosh, I have these 3 ideas and they're 90% finished. I just have to put the topping on when I get home. And so now you go home and you actually do it.
I was there last year, and what I liked is you had the breakouts where they like teams of people work together or by themselves on their processes. So it is a working it's a working workshop. It's a workshop basically, but it's super fun, and I highly recommend it. Especially if you are sitting here listening and saying, man, my processes are terrible. I'm working too much. I don't have good help. They don't know. They don't have any direction. I highly recommend. You're not going to get all your processes done there, but it's the beginning of your new life, I would say.
And we have enough tracks that we have that beginner track. And then we have the track where we have a lot of companies there with 1,000 doors, and they love coming every time because they're learning, and they're the ones that bring teams. So if you're a beginner, we have tracks for you. I will take you. We have the first day, we have a beginner and advanced track where we teach you what a good process is. We go through it and really try to tell you so that you're going to be able to be successful. So whatever your stage is in the game, you will not be disappointed if your team goes or you go.
Give us before we hit a quick break here, give us the date and the website, if you don't mind.
It is January 23rd through 26th, and it is pmsystemsconference.com. PM like property management, and then systems with an S, conference.com. And my agenda is up on there. You can see the amazing speakers. And the agenda is so like this is the biggest complaint I'm going to get after this one. And I think this is going to be my best one. And I'm happy for this complaint. My biggest complaint is going to be, you had too many options. There was too many things I wanted to go to and I didn't get to do it all. That is the complaint I want, because I'm trying to give you like, you know, this buffet that's just so big that you're going to be like, man, I'm too full. I can't eat another bite.
Huge value for the price. Paul, we're going to be right back after this break, and then we're going to hit the lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Lightning round. All right. We'll be right back, everybody. All right. Welcome back to the NARPM Radio Podcast. All right, Paul, got you in a hot seat. The lightning round. The lightning round. Here we go. You ready?
I'm a little scared.
What is the stupidest thing you did when you started your business?
Man, that is way too long of a list. Stupidest thing I did was I had about 30 or 40 doors, and I got audited by the Franchise Tax Board. And I had two people in the military who I hadn't sent out the form that you had to have signed that says that they were California residents, but they weren't California residents. They lived in California because they're in the military, and I didn't realize that, but they weren't California residents. So it was an $8,000 fine by the Franchise Tax Board. Thank you so much, California, for like, welcome to business. If you mess up a little bit, we are going to smack you across the legs.
We will find you. They have a certain specific set of skills. They will find you and they will make you pay.
But I looked at it this way. My things with California never made a mistake from that point on. If I had 400 doors and I hadn't had that $8,000 fine, the fine probably would have been 100,000, because it would have been that many more people. Ouch. So it was actually really beneficial. It was a beneficial fine because it taught me something. That's the way you either look at it. You either look at it as they're out to get me, or it was like taking a class in how to get screwed in California.
Dave Ramsey, the Christian money financial guy, he always calls it stupid tax, right? It's a stupid tax.
It was a stupid tax for me.
What is one piece of advice you would give someone just starting out in the PM business?
Just starting out, become a NARPM member would be an amazing thing. NARPM was a big part of my success. Go to a systems conference. A lot of times when you start out, you say, I don't have enough time to take education because I'm too busy. That's the biggest mistake you'll make. Make time to educate yourself. Make time to get better, which NARPM will do, and which other things like that will do, because that's how you're going to grow and be better. You don't want to be one of these crappy property managers who just does a piss-ass job. You want to be like the guys that have been at those conferences for a while that were like, wow, they do a great job. They know what they're doing. And those guys are going to give you their information and help you become better. Because the whole thing about NARPM community is share, care, and help each other grow.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Of course. It's the best thing. Pineapple, and none of this ham crap. Like, ugh. No, I do not like the Hawaiian. Pineapple and pepperoni is the best pizza that there is possibly in the world.
Our friendship has just ended. It was nice knowing you. What is your ideal vacation?
What is my ideal vacation? What time of year is it?
Whatever time of year you want to
it's my ideal vacation is skiing in the winter.
Yeah, you're a big ski buddy.
And it's being in either some type of warm climate where I can just have pina coladas in the summer, or in Belgium drinking beer on the river. I love being in Belgium too. But but I'd say my most ideal vacation is like all winter is one vacation for me. I just want to ski all winter.
Nice. What is something most people don't know about you?
That I ran a 100-miler before Tony Klein. Most people, like when we think about all this stuff, that they're like, Tony Klein's the ultra runner. Yes, I haven't completed it since, but
got it there first.
But 14 years ago, I ran a 100-miler, finished it, did all that. And, then Tony Klein goes and makes these 250-milers and stuff like that, and kind of just made my 100 miles seem like a small run. But
I need to get him on the podcast just to talk about that stuff. Crazy. What is a book that you're currently reading, or one that you have read that has impacted your business or life?
The book that I love was that I thought was one of the better ones was the Navy SEALs one. What is it? where it talks about how everybody should have only 3 people they report to. And if you're reporting to more people, it's what I can't believe I can't remember that book. Let me Navy.
And the Navy SEAL guy that you're referring to, it's on the tip of my tongue. And people listening to this are probably yelling right now at the
Extreme
radio.
ownership. Extreme ownership.
Extreme ownership.
Like the great thing about
Willow
Google. So,
Jockum, is that his name, or Jocko Wilhelm or something like that?
yes. And that book, for me, it transformed, because it basically, before I was all about like control. Oh, I got to be in control of this. And it talks about, like, in war and in business, how when you're trying to control 12 people in war, that it would be a disaster. If the general was trying to control everybody, it would be a disaster. The general's controlling the 3 people below him, which he's controlling the 3 people below them, which are controlling, and everybody has to work together. And everybody has to have good training. They have to be prepared. They have to have systems in place. They have to have all those things. Otherwise, because the general can't say, "Hey, you guys go."
Chaos ensues, right?
Yeah. So, and it was just such a good book, because it not only talked about war situations, then these guys went into the business world and they talked about business. So they talked about business is war, like, basically. And then the other really most important thing about this book is it talked about when your people fail. Point the finger at yourself. You failed. No one else, because you have 3 options. You fire that person because they're untrainable and they're unworking and they did a bad job, but it's still your fault because you knew it ahead of time and they failed because you know that. Or you didn't train them well enough, which is your fault. Or you didn't have good systems in place, which is your fault. So he said everything is your fault. Even if it was their fault, you should have known ahead of time and fired them.
All right. What do you prefer, dogs or cats?
Dogs. By far. I love my dog.
All right. Well, if you're listening to this and you're not a member of NARPM, please go to NARPM, NARPM.org, NARPM.org, or give them a call at 800-782-3452 and join NARPM. If you are compelled to say, "Hey, I want systems and I think I need some virtual assistants to help me with that," please give vpmsolutions.com a try. We have over 35,000 remote team members now looking for work in the PM and in the housing industry. And Paul, if somebody is compelled to reach out to you, they want to know more about the systems conference, how do they get in touch with you?
If you Facebook me, message me, I'll send you my cell phone number. So I'm on Facebook. You can look at, if you Google Paul Kankowski, it's a very unique name. You'll probably find my information. You can have my email below here. Just contact me. Happy to have a conversation. Happy to talk to people. I love helping this industry. I'm semi-retired, but I still love being a part of this industry and helping through this industry. It's just an amazing industry. And as I said before, if you haven't joined NARPM, join it. I joined NARPM. I was in NARPM the first day I started my property management company. I went to San Diego and went to an event, and I was amazed at how helpful people were there. And I was like, really, these people, I'm a competitor. This person's in my market and they're giving me ideas. So it's a very different than if you're in the real estate world. Real estate world's all about stabbing you in the back and cutting you up. That is not how NARPM is. It's about a community. It's about, we want to grow together. And there's enough fish in the sea for us all to be profitable, us all to be wonderful, and do it right.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Have a good day.